All right, and we are live. So, one thing I'll let everybody know, there is a lag. So, just so you know, when you're talking and asking questions and comments, there will be a lag on here. But in the meantime, for those of us that are going to be watching the show afterwards, Darren, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are and how you're involved as we let people start coming into the room.
Yeah, my name's Daren Garish. I live in Brevard County, Florida. I'm the program chair of the Space Coast chapter of FAVOB. Been around with FAVOB since about 2016, 2017. Helped found the Space Coast chapter. Was their first membership chair, and just been in and out of the organization since then. Until just this past March, I rejoined as a program chair, and I've been helping out since then.
All right, Doc, you go up next.
Hey, so Eric, Doc Wright, have a couple businesses, but the one I'm most well known for is Vets to PM. We have helped in 8 years. We've helped over 11,000 military veterans go into over 1,000 companies in corporate America. They're all still on the job. They're all making over 95,000. And because they're vets, as you can imagine, Eric, a large portion of them go into government contracting because I can speak DOD. I came out of DOD, right? So a large portion of our audience, our followers, 60,000 plus, are government contractors. So that's kind of where Vets to PM specializes is supporting GovCon through certification training and staffing.
Nice. And all right, Stu, you're up, pulling up the rear.
Thanks, Eric. No worries, brother. That's right. Stu Smith, also in Brevard County, Florida, what we know as the Space Coast. I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses. We are a business association of 99% veteran-owned businesses. We do have folks that are Patriot members, and we just went over 450 members, and we're in 5 chapters across the state. And our goal is to connect veteran-owned businesses in order for them to find meaningful opportunities and to thrive as businesses. And we're so excited to be on with you, brother.
I love it. Thank you so much. And everyone that's joining us right now, just make sure, again, as you know, when we come on our show live, put in the chat, tell us who you are. Go ahead and raise your hand. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what your business is about. And again, as always, if you have any questions for any of the members up here, definitely pose those questions as well. We're going to continue the flow, and we're going to basically go around, thank all these gentlemen for their service and all the other veterans out here. So today, we want to talk about programs and benefits to veterans. And so that's why we've pulled this panel together. I know some people are going to be joining us, but I definitely wanted to have those of you who were here on time to get a chance to introduce yourselves. So again, Mr. Gilbert Perez, thank you for putting it in. And also, again, other people that are now joining us, just tell us about your business, tell us where you're located, what is it you do, and if I don't have on there, tell us your city. So thank you for that. All right, so Doc, talk to us about Vets to PM, and you said you kind of went over briefly how you've helped 11,000 veterans at this point. Tell us, what is it that you guys do for them?
Yeah, so for those of you that have ever served or are serving or know somebody who's served, thank you, first of all. Secondly, we learn to talk about whatever we learned how to do. And this is not just unique to veterans. This is unique to any other elite class. So, hey, I was a pro athlete. Hey, I was a law enforcement officer. Hey, I was a meteorologist, right? Like a weather person. Okay, when you're done being a weather person, you're elite. You do that very specific thing. What are you going to do now? How do you talk to the people at large working across corporate America? So we help them translate. We help elites translate. We certify that translated experience in terms of project management, human resource management, operations, cybersecurity. So jobs that are meaningful work, so they enjoy it and have lucrative paychecks, and they make a difference to the organizations they go into. Because we all want to make a difference with our work and our contributions to the tribes, right? So we certify them and then we place them. So we're technically a specialized staffing company. And then, like I said, many of our guys and gals, because they came out of Department of Defense, it's natural for them to want to go back into gov contracting. They worked in acquisitions, or they were a contracting officer representative, or they were in finance, or they were like Darren. They were the guys downrange field testing the gear and giving feedback to the defense contractors. So we just realized it was kind of an offshoot. And then I got asked by my buddy, and you know him well, Eric, Josh Franks and Michael Lejeune, to contribute a chapter in how to become a GovCon expert. And so I did one wee little bitty chapter, smashed a bunch of real GovCon experts like you, and and it was, hey, in a lot of awards, you need a PMP. Somebody in the management team has to show the contracting officer that they can run a project, because most government work as projects, right? And then if it's DOD, somebody has to, if you're going to touch a DOD system or DOD data, you got to have a Sec Plus. You got to tell the government that you can keep their stuff secure. So my training company, my staffing company trains vets. So it was just a natural extension to say, okay, then let's support GovCon. So we don't directly support GovCon. We support those who do. So, and Eric, that's how we came together a couple of years ago, right. And, been a big fan ever since. And you're a fellow Floridian, brother. So, got a band.
I love it. That's right. I love it. Funny stuff. I actually was on today. I did a podcast interview with someone else from the Space Coast. So Martinez Construction Company over at Space Coast, and she's a big SAME at the head level. So we did a podcast interview today. Stu, talk to us about FAVOB and some of the benefits that veteran members receive as being part of FAVOB. Tell us about why you decided to take that role, and what you've seen, how you guys been able to help veterans.
You got it, brother. I'm still trying to figure out why I took on the role. It's just Florida is my home of record. I went into the Army from Brevard County, Florida. And before I went in the military, I had a couple small construction companies. So I've been in the entrepreneur space before I went in the military. And when I came out of the military, I did not have some of the same struggles that folks had coming out. I literally left on a Friday and went to work for my previous brigade commander on a Monday. So I had the whole weekend off to go from BDUs to a suit. So I had to learn the transition vicariously through other folks that had it. But Eric, that's what ignited my passion for helping my fellow vets. So where I started from is in that HR world, because I had a pretty decent corporate career in human resources. And so helping veterans first with the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs and training veteran service officers, getting to know the VA system in and out for state level and a federal level, then into HR and helping people get placed. And so proudly, I've helped a lot of veterans find jobs, and everybody on here will tell you that the advice that you get in TAP class, if you just do the exact opposite, you'll be more successful than anything that they tell you. Not to be flippant about it, but that's God's honest truth. And we know that it's all about networking, getting to know each other. So came back to Florida, as you might see from the backdrop here. Being in the military is a little bit of a family business. That is my father-in-law's casket flag and my dad's casket flag, Army veteran, Air Force veteran. And our son, I married a soldier, so 35 years. We've been married, and our son is an active duty Army Black Hawk crew chief. And so just had a passion around obviously serving my fellow veterans. Went through this corporate career, got out, had a couple businesses of my own, and found FAVOB, found Daren in the group, right? And the cool thing about FAVOB in particular is the affinity part of it, having that we've all served. And so there's that natural ability to communicate with each other. And we started doing business together. And on the Space Coast in 2020, yes, that 2020, there were 63 of us who exchanged $1 million in contracted business. And so we do just a great job of.
Still, you can't go over that so fast. You got to slow down so people understand what you just said. Okay, that's why I'm the host here. Let's not just glance over that, right, Doc? You can't just glance over that. Like, oh, by the way, we did keep talking. Like it. Say that slowly so people understand.
Just a couple mil.
Yep. So 63 of us in the chapter on the Space Coast, and we're just. That affinity part and wanting to help your fellow brother or sister is a big part of FAVOB, right? And so 63 of us get together and we start exchanging business with each other at these networking events. And we documented $1 million in exchange business in 2020. And one of those pieces of business, honestly, Eric, allowed me to sell one of my businesses. So it was an enabler for me to sell a business that I own to another fellow veteran who's still running that business. And so Eric and Darren and Chris Drennan and John Niederhold and a whole bunch of guys just came together and really had a passion for helping each other out. So yeah, it was a pretty exciting time. So fast forward. So I went secretary, vice chair of the chapter. Fast forward, it's 2022. And I think it's pretty wise for me to take more time to play golf and hang out with my grandkids. And other people had different things in mind. So the founder, Michael Waldrop with Blue Cord Construction, came to me and asked, "Hey, Stu, if you could give me some more time, how much could you give me? How much time could you give me? And would you be willing to take over the CEO role?" The funny part of that was I was pretty certain I was going to say no. And I went to my wife, and my wife is a good advice giver. And so I said, "Hey, babe, I'm really thinking that no is the answer to this. I think I want to do something else." And she's like, "Oh, hell no. You are so taking this job." And I'm like, "What's the deal, right? Why are you so passionate about me taking the job?" And she said, "Listen, the poor SOB that takes the job, right, if you don't take it, is going to last about 3 months before you're just wearing them out about not doing it correctly, not doing it fast enough, not doing the way it should be done." And she said, "Let me tell you this, I don't care about that person, but I ain't listening to you," right? So she's like, "You're going to save me a lot of grief. So become the CEO and run it the way you want to run it." And so that April of 22, we had about 290, 300 members. We just went over 454 members across the state. We had 2 chapters at the time. Now we've got 5 chapters. So Orlando, Space Coast, Greater Tampa Bay, Pensacola, and Jacksonville.
Nice. All right. Darren, as programs chair, talk to me about some of the programs that you guys are doing.
Yeah, hey, so most of what we're doing right now are our networking and outreach events, bringing business owners, members together, bringing all FAVOB from all the chapters, mostly from Space Coast, here to the Space Coast at some of our member organizations. For instance, we just had our Fishing with a Veteran event. Stu can tell you a little bit about that. I wasn't able to attend that. We just had that, I think it was this past Saturday. They had 15 or 16 members, multiple sponsors. Everyone came by. Patrick Space Force Base did some fishing by the beach. We do a lot of networking events, downtown Melbourne and EGAD, other places, beachside, up in Cape Canaveral. But it's really mostly about bringing business owners together, helping them do B2B, helping them do government contracting, like Doc was saying earlier, and then introducing them to people who can solve their pain points. That's my big thing. So I'm doing a coffee event actually tomorrow morning at in Vieira. We usually get about 15, 16 people, mostly business owners, and I go around and I talk to them about the issues that they're having, the pain points that they're experiencing, and I try to put them in contact with somebody immediately, whether it's one of our board members or one of our business members, to solve the problems. So that's one of the big drivers that I'm working on.
Can you give us either way, Stu or Darren, any examples of some of those issues that you've helped people solve?
Yeah, just the other day, not the other day, our last coffee event last month, we had a young lady, Air Force veteran, and her husband come in and say that they had just started a food truck company and they were looking at starting up. They had already talked to Stu. Stu would help them organize and get incorporated and get their organization up and running, and they were looking for business. So I immediately got them with one of our members that we're having an event with in 2 weeks, and they're going to be catering that event. So it's just immediate business, and it's a good bit of business for them. It's a lot of volume for them. They're just starting up, and so they're going to get to showcase their business. They're going to get to bring us their food. We're going to get to introduce them to everyone there. We're going to get to let them perform and show us what they can do, and then hopefully use them again.
Wow, nice. I love it. Stu?
Yeah, let me follow up just with the example Darren offered up. So it's really interesting with people at different phases of their business, right? So in FAVOB, we have everything from this startup. These 2 folks are trying to get together, trying to get this food going, to plus $100 million businesses in the construction industry and transportation, logistics, IT, and so on and so forth. So it's a range of businesses. So how we connect them depends on where they're at and what they're looking for. So, for example, let's just use this. So we get together, the four of us get together and say, hey, let's make this GovCon thing work for FAVOB. Let's put GovCon giants together in FAVOB and let's partner because you guys are members. Since we released that email Friday, there are now 7 FAVOB members coming to the GovCon event.
Nice.
Right? So it's that. So it depends on where people fit in. I just had a LinkedIn message from somebody who's not even a FAVOB member. He's up in Pensacola. Saw the social post, got a hold of me and said, hey, Stu, what's that discount code, man? I got to get it down there. I got to see what's going on with you. Fernando Mercado, who was instrumental in writing, and Doc, you can help me with this, writing a lot of the CMMC, correct? Is that the acronym, right? So Fernando's a member. He saw what we were doing. He wants to connect because he wants to do more government contracting.
Nice.
And it'd be as simple. And let me follow up with the Darren said. So when I met the folks that were going to start the food truck, I'm a pretty Captain Obvious guy. Like, go the simple route. Just a knuckle dragging infantry guy, right? It's okay. Put a large volume of fire on the target and then start moving around. Pretty simple. So they said, well, we're thinking about starting a food truck. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a food truck? And it's just, it's so intuitively obvious to people that have run businesses. Have you done what you want or you say you want to do? And they're like, no. I said, well, there's my first suggestion. Find somebody, there's a veteran-owned food truck, call them up, let them know that at the next event, you're willing to go there and be their incidental labor. You'll help them with, taking orders, cleaning up. Find out if running a food truck's really what you want to do. And they followed the advice, and then they came back and said, yeah, we're going to do this food truck thing. So it just where you're coming in, right, and what it is that you need to connect with.
No, and one of the things that like you said before, and by the way, I don't know if you guys caught that. We actually had a call, I think a week ago, and I said, hey, we want to get more veteran members access to our event because we're, actually probably about 8 of our speakers are veterans. First of all, I don't know if you guys noticed that, right? I mean, just because natural in the GovCon space, I mean, that's a natural thing. And then, when I'm looking at it, they have opportunities for contracts, subcontracts, and even jobs. So when I looked at 2 of my speakers, one of them had 123 open job positions. And like Doc said, since these guys are veterans, they really take hiring other veterans seriously. Another one of our speakers had 23 job openings, very high level positions. So it just made sense to me to connect, right, those folks together. And we, I only have so much bandwidth of what I can do, right, and what I'm capable of. So things like that. But then at the same time, it's also giving back and being able to bring that government contracts piece to FAVOB. And so, I know that a lot of people want to learn more about it. A lot of people want to get involved in it. And we've been pretty successful, I would say, having trained over 7,000 small businesses up to billion. So, by the way, I just wrote in the chat, if you are a veteran or you're a spouse of a veteran or immediate family member, just put a thumbs up in the chat. So that way we can see out here who's our audience. Also, Doc, I don't know if you guys have been reading the comments, but someone said in here, let me just go through real quick, just kind of take a breather. Someone said, where was it? I read about it. Greetings. Oh, it says we have 11B grunt type business owners in the chat this evening. Someone else said 13B artillery, 2 combat tours. All right. 88M in the house.
So for those of you that don't know, these are your infantrymen, these are your mortar guys, these are your artillery guys. Like, these are the guys keeping the bad guy's head down and making his XRX. You know what I mean?
There you go. Air Force mom here.
Nice.
Hey, happy birthday to her son or daughter that's in the Air Force today. They're 75 years old or something. Space Force, what, 7 months old? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
There you go. All right. We got Army 25D.
Nice, a cyber person. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks, Xavier.
All
My
right.
88 Mike should be a truck driver if I remember my MOS was correct.
Yeah.
You said you're what, Stu? I didn't hear you.
Your 88 Mike should be a truck driver.
Ah, okay. So be a truck driver.
One of the unsung heroes in the Army, somebody to drive a 2.5 or a 5-ton.
I've heard the word deuce and a half used before.
Okay. Yep.
I've heard
that was
deuce and a
our
half.
favorite bus, right?
Okay.
That's how you got places.
Hey, Doc, what is this?
This is why this authenticity, this conversation happening, the vets showing up and the GovCon showing up. And I mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, other than you're an absolute hoot to hang out with and interview with on podcasts and stuff, right? Like, so there's the Eric Coffie fanboy plug, but you bring decision makers to all your events. You talk about things that can help people do tactical execution in their day jobs.
Absolutely.
I talk to thousands of vets a year, and a lot of them are just like me. Hey, man, I got my SDVOSB rating, everybody. Look at me. Contracts are raining on me like manna from heaven. Said nobody ever, because that's not how it goes.
No.
But you don't know that. You've got coaches soaking you for $15,000 each to like teach you that or whatever. And so I ran into you, and we started doing GovCon, and I got into the, supporting the industry, and I figured out, hey, making the money as a JV or a sub or a prime or a supporter of GovCons being subs or primes, man, the money's all green. It all still spins exactly the same. So that's what I just got okay with. Okay, cool. Run in the circles, meet the decision makers, bring your peeps to his peeps. And I mean, it's a natural fit, man. So you just got to do a great job of educating the average GovCon bear on how to do this thing for a living.
And one of the things that I think that I just thought about over the weekend, I was talking to my son about, Doc, but what you guys do. So one of my very successful friends who now runs this federal group, right, for a tribal company. I think he told me this month, he'll close $100 million in contracts for the year. Okay. When I talked to him about how did you find this job, he said, I went to a GovCon conference.
Nice.
And so a lot of people don't think about going. So most of us, we go online, Indeed, one of these places, we take our resume, we put it into a database, it gets filtered by computers. You are not thinking about, at my conference, everyone speaking is a president or a CEO.
Yeah.
So I already have, Caesar Nadar, one of our you guys are going to love Caesar when you hear him speak. He's incredible. So we re-released Doc, his podcast episode. People have emailed him and said, hey, can we meet? He says, yeah, I'll meet you at the event when I'm down in Miami. So people are already setting up meetings with the CEO before the conference.
Yep.
Okay, this is tactical. This is strategic. Doc, this is what we're talking about. So he's already lining up meetings. People are already lining up meetings with these persons that are on my list of speakers. Because why? Why would you go through the computer model and send your resume through a back door into a bot that maybe get filtered down, right? May never get to him. When you go meet the guy himself, and then he can take your resume, hand it to his HR person or whoever his vice president of the company and say, find this person a spot. And we experienced that, Doc, when I was in San Diego at the Navy Gold Coast conference. We were at an after event with my friend who's also speaking at my conference. His company, Salex Corporation, they're, again, veteran owned, 800 employees. Stu, we go to this happy hour spot that they sponsored. A young man comes up to me watching my video. He's a veteran. He's literally cleaning up our tables. And I said, you guys see the disconnect? We've already invested in his education, his training, right? And now he's cleaning up tables. So I introduced him to my friend, the CEO. He introduced him to the president of the company. The president pulled out his business card and said, here's my card. Call me. We will find a job for you.
Good stuff.
Nice.
We will find a job for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think, Eric, one of the things, and Eric and I, and more so than any, because Eric and I have spent a lot of time on the road this year, going to these different biz dev events, up in Pensacola, or
Sure.
Orlando, Tampa, so on and so forth. There's this camaraderie. There's this willingness to help each other because we've served. Not that
Right.
others are not willing to do it, but when I can tell that an 88 Mike was a truck driver, and I know exactly what an 88 Mike did, right, and how risky that was in a combat zone, especially if you're driving a fuel truck, right, and I have an appreciation for what that person did, and I understand what Darren did in the military, then you've got this built-in respect for each other and an understanding of how difficult it was to do that job. In fact, one of the things we were talking about today is there is a high percentage, and I'm going to take a swag at this, but I think I'm correct. Somewhere between 75 and 85% of all veterans who take their first job out of the service leave that job within a year. And one of the biggest reasons, and civilian world calls it culture, and so you can put it on that. But if you're a one-term enlistment, 19 Delta, and you were driving a M1 Abrams tank, and you leave at 22, right? And you had responsibility for a $60 million piece of equipment, and 5 crew members their lives are in your hands to get things done. And you leave the Army without a college degree, and you go to work for somebody, and the first thing they tell you is, sit down, shut up, we'll let you know when we need you.
Or go clean the tables.
Yeah, go clean the tables. It ain't going to work, right? Because here's a 22-year-old person who's had this significant responsibility and accountability and so on and so forth. And they're looking to replace that when they leave the service, right? They're looking for something bigger than themselves. 2 things you miss the most: camaraderie and mission, right? And, when you eat, sleep, and do everything else together, that's the camaraderie side. You're never going to replace that in the civilian world, right? But if you can find an organization, especially a veteran-run business like Doc's business, where the culture is military forward, or people at least appreciate what you've done, you're going to be a lot more successful. And that also translates in business, doing business with each other. And I'm not saying that just because somebody went in the military and came out, shitbirds came in, shitbirds came out. That's just all there is to it, right? The Army doesn't, or the military doesn't correct everybody's evils when they're on active duty. But the chances, if you had a successful even 4-year enlistment, that you're made of something is much higher than in the civilian community. So that's one of the things that we appreciate about doing business with each other.
I love it. Let me see. There's any questions, and let me see if there's any questions.
Malika has one, Eric.
Yeah. So going back to the scholarships. So we actually did have our partners with Goodwill through USAA gave a grant to Goodwill to issue scholarships for our training. Originally, it was only in Florida. So, and then we had a couple other states, Texas and stuff. But if you reach out to us, we can check with our Goodwill partners to see if they would honor that for like states like Georgia. And actually, Darren, I didn't even think about that. I'm glad they brought it up because I need to send that to you guys as well. Because Goodwill was issuing scholarships to veterans to take our courses for free.
Cool. Send it.
Which is amazing. So I see we lost Stu for a little bit, but that's fine. We'll get back on track. All right. What else? What other questions do we have in here? Let me see. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. All right. Logistics. Air Force veteran, 2T2 air transportation, loaded and shipped everything from artillery to tanks to FEMA cargo. So, Doc, let's talk about that, right? So you have someone here who did this job, right, in the military, and you talk about translating that to like the civilian workforce. Use this as an example of which, how do you do that?
Wow, too cool, man. So, hey, everybody. You paid for the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Here it comes. This is what I'm doing the workshop on. And Eric and I had a chat, and he said, hey, Eric, man, you got to come down to Miami, brother. You got to give this workshop. So so here's what the magic show is going to look like, but at scale. Okay, so I'm a logistics guy or gal, right? So let me ask you this, right? You have leadership experience, check. You also have experience planning. You also have experience organizing resources to execute the plan that you came up with. You have experience assessing, hey, here's what we plan to do. Here's what's actually happening. What do I do about getting off the track in the middle? That's take corrective action. I've never met a veteran over rank E5 that doesn't have vast amounts of experience doing that. You call it leadership in uniform. The civilians call that management. Those are the 4 functions of management. We just call the whole thing leadership in uniform. Once you start talking in terms of management, now a civilian manager can relate to you. You don't sound like 88 Mike or 11 Bravo or whatever MOS you were, military occupation specialty, by the way, for those of us in the crowd that aren't vets. That's what that means. It was your job, right? The other thing, here's a great example. So I'm the first sergeant or the top sergeant or whatever the service called the highest ranking enlisted member in the unit. Your main job is morale and welfare of the troops. They're the ones that execute the mission. Okay, so when that guy or gal gets out and says, hey, I was a first sergeant, like I'll go be a police officer or EMT. I'm not saying that we don't need police officers in EMT. Good God, man, we need them more so than ever now. But that doesn't mean just because you carried a sidearm and wore a vest that that's what you want to do when you grow up and you get out of the service. Okay, first sergeants, first shirts in the Air Force, top sergeants in the Marine Corps, they make amazing human resource professionals. They just don't talk like human resource professionals. So I train them how to sound like a human resource professional. I train them how to certify as a human resource professional. Now the hiring manager hears a human resource professional. They see human resource credentials like they have, and you interview and you look like one, you sound one like one, you act like one. You must be a human resource duck. I mean, quack, walk, talk like a duck. Like it's perfect. Same thing with project manager, Darren, 11 Bravo, infantryman. Well, move from this point to that point with said elements, remove bad guy from place in the battle space we want. That's a unique outcome. It's a temporary endeavor because he's got a deadline because boss said so, commander said so. That's a project. So talk about every mission you ever did in project management, pin on a PMP or an ACP or some project management credential, go win more awards with government contracting. I mean, the civilians instantly recognize you. Tell them you're a veteran 6 months after they hire you at the company picnic over a Miller Lite or something, man. That has no bearing on the interview, right? Hey, I have experience doing it. I'm certified. Independent third parties certified my stuff. I'm a low risk hire. I get stuff done. Aren't you glad I'm the last interview you'll need to have today? Bang, done. Negotiate salary.
I love it.
Done. Bang. How you like that, Eric, right?
Hey.
Eric, there's some questions in here too I'm going to respond to, and I don't know
Sure.
who asked them. So FAVOB, the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses, is in the state of Florida. We do have members who are outside the state. That was one of the questions. Many states have organizations similar to ours. Some of them bucket under this umbrella of Veteran Chamber of Commerce. So like the state of New Jersey has a Veteran Chamber of Commerce. Same with the state of Idaho. In California, we have a sister organization known as Veterans in Business. And so if you're not in the state of Florida and you're listening to this podcast, look around and you might want to type in Veterans Chamber and see what's going on. Now, I will tell you that some chambers of commerce have like a military affairs council, which I ran in Cocoa Beach for a while. That's not the same. That's a subset of a larger chamber. But there are some of these organizations that are out there. And we actually belong to the coalition of veterans chambers, which are across the United States. So yeah, there's lots of resources out there for folks who are in business and looking for the same level of interaction and opportunity to network and do business with each other.
And also to caveat that, Stu, someone asked a question where they can learn where these GovCon conferences are happening. We were just at the National NVSBC, National Veteran Small Business
Coalition. Yep.
Yeah. I get that wrong every time. But we were just at their event up in DC last week and met some incredibly educated, knowledgeable people in the GovCon space. I can't remember his last name. It's Jeff. Right, Doc? Jeff, can't Can't remember, but he knew you, Eric, and it was funny.
Yeah, Jeff Shin, the guy that was given the training from Red Team Consulting. The man oh my God, I'm going to steal you and I'm going to hijack you and take you down to Florida for Eric Coffie's GovCon Giants. It's like, oh my God, I know Eric.
So what happened? Good. Listen, Darren said it was funny.
We thought we were going to be networking geniuses and connecting with GovCon. He's like, yeah, I already know who those guys are. But to answer that question, that's one resource. So NVSBC, they have GovCon events. They have a bunch of workshops. That was an incredible one that we went to, learned a lot in that 45 minutes. They're going to be in Tampa. They're going to be in San Diego. They do them in DC regularly.
Right.
So it's not just, NVSBC is national. That's not just Florida. There's us. You can follow GovCon on YouTube and all their socials. And you probably will be kept up to date most just us three.
Yeah, and one thing that I always tell people is, there is a website called govevents.com that has a list of government events. And by the way, Stu and Darren, you may want to start putting some of your stuff there. It's free to post your events on there. So I do. There is govevents.com where it's free to post, and we put stuff on there as well. So I put stuff on GovEvents and I recommend it. And then if you're specifically looking for like government contracting events, sam.gov, believe it or not, does have they do list events as well. So I did want to share that with folks. So, but
folks, here's why you want to go to these events. Yes, I know it costs money. Yes, I know it's a time sink. I get it. Okay. But look, Eric was just talking about it a couple minutes ago. Business is built on relationships, and relationships are built on trust. Trust to do what? Trust to do what I told you I would do in the bid that you just awarded me, right? And another myth, at least that I have found in my experience, especially with veteran-owned businesses, is, hey, I just saw this cool solicitation on sam.gov, Eric. I'm going to get my team spun up and we're going to get a bid in, brother. And we're going to capture some proposals and up our win rate, like all the cool GovCon terms. What they don't realize is by the time you see that solicitation announced on sam.gov or wherever you find your stuff, that thing was written 18 months ago. They already have somebody in mind, right? Like, so it's way too late. You should be starting on the next cycle next year. So my point is if you're meeting these decision makers at Eric's event, if you're going to govevents.com, if you're making the rounds, like Darren said, to NVSBC and all these other organizations, you literally may sit at dinner and have a house salad and a sourdough bread roll next to the guy that works at NAV Facilities Maintenance and knows the contracting officer. And he happens to know, by the way, I know Pacific in Guam is releasing a contract in 18 months, and it sounds like you guys might have some skills you might want to. That's when you need to be finding about the opportunities and pressing flesh and smiling and buying each other bourbons and whatever. By the time it's a solicitation that's published sam.gov, too late. You lose. Don't even try.
I'm gonna say something, Doc, to that point. By the way, I saw Kwame was on here. Kwame, I hope you're still on listening to this. Because of our intelligence, right? Because again, we're out doing this all day. I've got a team of people that are out calling on different federal agencies every single day for different customers and clients and students. The FAA is allowed to, right, do bids up to $100,000 and never post them publicly. Okay, wait, Stu. They've now bumped that up to $250,000. Never post it publicly. And by the way, this is something for everyone to know. The FAA does not follow the FAR, which is the federal regulations. Okay, let me just put that out there, everybody. Guess who's going to be at our event? The FAA.
Beautiful.
I don't know what else to do for people, Darren, when I say things like this. I'll give you one more reason. The FAA has a problem. They cannot find construction companies that want to go to remote areas and work. So as you can imagine, FAA control towers, right? They're in weird places. They cannot find construction companies to go to weird places. So Stu, when this is your first time on a training with me. This is your first training. When people give me an excuse that they can't find contracts, it's just that, an excuse. Yeah. Because if you come to me and you say, I do them, okay, go here. I'm not saying it's going to be in your backyard. I'm not promising you that, Darren, but you can get a contract. You can get some past performance. You can get some work, right? I'm not saying it's going to be where you want it. I'm not saying it's going to be wrapped in a bow and it's going to be brought to your front door and they're going to, it's like Uber Eats and they're going to, knock on the door and let you know it's out here. But they're telling you, like, I don't know how much easier they want to make. The Department of Energy has reduced the bar so low that they no longer, I told you guys this, they're no longer calling some of these things contracts. They're calling them competitions. So they've reduced the bar so low to where it's just a competition. Give us a paper, say you could do it. We'll give you $100,000.
And think about that, Eric. How many times could a small GovCon, 5, 6, 10 employees, making a couple $100,000 a year? Man, you win 1 or 2 contracts a year, dude. You just doubled your potential revenue. And now you have past performance. And here's what the Gov knows. If you take one on the chin for the team and you pack a crew out into nowhere, Alaska, and you fix my cell tower, the next time I got something downtown DC, baby, that's 28 minutes from your house, I'll call you first.
Absolutely. That's right.
What I mean? Because there's that past performance. There's that trust.
Oh, yeah. Right. No, you've scratched their back. So they're going to take care of you. And again, the fact that they don't have to put anything out on their 100,000, they may take that and break it up so they can give you 100,000 on a $200,000 contract. We've done that before, right? They'll call it phases. So they'll phase it out into 3 phases, Darren. So they'll take a $300,000 package, break it up into $100,000 increments and call it phase 1, 2, 3 so that they don't have to put it out publicly. Totally legal.
Which I think at this point, if you're still listening and you've listened to this whole podcast thus far, and you're looking for contracts and you don't have a GovCon ticket yet, you probably should.
Yeah. Yeah, you should.
Well, listen, again, I mean, I can tell you stories about all the people that are speaking. I mean, I know them intimately, and I know some of the issues. One of our speakers that just signed up, by the way, we just signed up Porch Creek Federal Services. They want to build out a whole new tech division. They already have 9 small business companies they own. By the way, if you are in South Florida, look up the company that just bought Magic City Casino. They were the ones that bought the casino. You think they got money? They have a lot of money. They have a federal division, right? And so now they're wanting to grow out the technology side of that federal division. They're actively hiring BD people to build out that technology corporation that they're launching. That's where they're coming to our event. They're looking for folks right now that can come on and help them grow their technology company. That means they're going to not just need BD folks, Doc, from you. They're going to need partners, Stu, right? That understand, that have technology backgrounds because they don't have that experience. They're going to go after those contracts. But I think they're pretty good at winning because they just put down a $300 million marketing contract. So they know how to win. So when they get the right partners in place that can help them win, they're going to go hard and heavy, and they're going to add another $50 to $60 million on the books. That's just what they do. They're really good at it. So, I mean, things like that. The Rely Group, they just graduated from small business. They're no longer small business. The guy just hit $120 million over 600 employees, Sam Elias. And so he's going to be speaking on a panel about disrupting cyber with AI. Well, Sam's also has a whole bunch of 8A contracts that he needs to find people that he can help put them somewhere because he's no longer small business. He can't qualify anymore for these contracts. These are the kind of people that you're going to meet.
And it's exactly about that too, Eric. And building these networks, to Eric's right point, is once you prove that you can do what you can say you do, even if it's not what you wanted to do at first, and you've got that record, right? You've got that capability to be able to do that. These agencies start talking to each other too, because there's just a dearth. They can't find enough people to fill stuff. I had somebody call us up. I joke that FAVOB is the Kevin Bacon of networking in Florida, right? Nobody's more than 7 phone calls away from us. So somebody called and said, hey, listen, I've got this huge contract. It's going to be statewide, and I need X. And X was a very specific ask. So they come to us because they depend on us to leverage our network. So even though I don't know that person, I know the person that knows that person, and they're right around the corner. So if I know you, I like you, and I want to do business with you, I'm going to connect you to my network. So now we're a network of networks. Imagine having 450 networks at your disposal.
Right.
Looking and know that Darren Garish does X, and he happens to be the unicorn that I'm looking for. They find us through associations like FAVOB.
Yeah.
And so
I love it.
Excited about come down there and meeting with all your folks, because now we've built our network even bigger.
Absolutely. And again, I just want to share something really quick. Let me show you guys this. This is just me going to their website. And again, the CEO of this company is going to be speaking at our event. This is the Rely Group. And I mean, look at these jobs. Look what they're looking for: robotics, process automation, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. Like, I mean, these are their job postings on their site. So again, it's not just contracts, right, Doc? I mean, they're looking for people. Here's another one of our premier sponsors, Salex. They have 123 current openings. Everything from a librarian, electronics, trucks, logistics, engineers, scientists, systems administrators, computer operators, engineering technicians. So again, even if you think, hey, right, like I can't do contracts, they're looking for jobs. That's the company who I gave the example of, Stu, where the young man at the restaurant, I introduced to the president of the company, and I gave him a card. And you know what I said? Because I know that if I was a young guy, my early 20s, meeting the president of this huge $100 million company, I'd be intimidated. I said to the young man, I said, listen, do me a favor. I said, I speak all around the country like Doc, and I still go to a lot of events. And one thing that I know about people that speak at events, they give out their numbers and the folks don't call. And I said, do not be one of the people or the persons that does not call. If he gave you his number, right, then that means for you to call him. And I said, please call him and follow up. I think, and again, I went back to Gold Coast and I told Missile Defense Agency and NAVFAC and NAVC, and I said, you guys are looking for veterans, you're looking for people. And by the way, like Department of Interior and Bureau of Land Management, they have a 40% vacancy in jobs. 40. These kind of places. I'm sure you guys heard, we can't get enough welders to build our subs.
Oh yeah.
But the people don't know about these opportunities. And so that's what I've been trying to do, Doc, for a long time, is saying, hey, regardless, again, if you want a contract, if you want a subcontract, if you're looking for a partner, if you're looking for job growth or if you, we have the person who's in charge of the NASA STEM program who does all of the NASA internships.
Very cool.
Who would not? I mean, if I had a kid at that age, Doc, I would want my kid to be going to do an internship with NASA.
Absolutely.
I'm a little too old for that now, Darren. But STEM training K through 12 for NASA. When I was a kid, I remember going to visit the Space Coast. Right. It was Patrick Air Force Base back then, and I know now you got cool names, but
yeah, we got cool names.
I remember that stuff. So these are the kind of people that someone says, is it just for veterans? No, we're not talking. This happens to be a conversation about veterans, but no, this is not a veteran conference. It just happens to be that FAVOB is supporting us, and we want them to talk about what they do for veterans, so that if you are a veteran out here and you are looking for a place to be with like-minded individuals, right, that understand, that speak your language, that can help promote you in different ways. We're showing how one way where we're partnering together, right? And these are kind of opportunities they're going to extend out to you. Stu, for those people, because when we've gone now for about an hour, so we may need to just recap for the new people that weren't on in the beginning, because we have people coming on and off at all times.
Sure,
just recap about FAVOB and what it is that it does for those that are just joining us.
Yeah, so I could give you the details, but I like to couch it around this mnemonic GIs can, right? Because it makes sense. So FAVOB at its essence is we want to galvanize people around our vision. We want to be the recognized voice for Florida veteran-owned businesses. Florida, unlike many states like California, Texas, New York, we do not have a state mandated set aside for any supplier diversity category, right? We have the Office of Supplier Diversity that helps enable state contracting, but we don't have a set aside of 3%, 5%, 8%, whatever the case may be. That's the cards that we're dealt. So we got to work with that. So how do we do that? We enable people by having them understand what's going on with OSD and how those state level contracts work. We partner with Envy SBDC, with Novova and others to try to help enable people that way. We inform our members. Our website is a wealth of information about things going on, events and programs, and we certainly connect folks with each other, and we connect them not only with the GovCon contracting, but the supply diversity contracting also. So the Bank of America's of the world and Wells Fargo of the world and Walmart's of the world that need diverse suppliers in their supply chain. We do have a advocacy arm, a legislative advocacy arm. So we're in Tallahassee every year talking to our legislators about who we are and what we're trying to do. And what we do better than anything is network. We really do. And Maria said it earlier, your net worth is your network is your net worth. And we tend to do that particularly well. 5 chapters: Orlando, Tampa, Space Coast, which is Brevard County, Jacksonville, the First Coast, and then Pensacola, and 450 business members in our membership. So that's a little about FAVOB.
All right, Doc.
And I was going to, Doc, before you go to,
right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't recognize this, and I bet you if I asked the audience, you'd be hard pressed to even getting close. But there are 187,756 veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida.
Wow.
And we believe that's a significant undercount because of the methodology by what they do it. So they do it every year that ends in 7, and every year that ends in 2, they do an inventory of businesses by all demographics. But we think there's probably 200,000 veteran-owned businesses in the state of Florida. Imagine if we represented 10% of that network.
Stu, can you answer this question real quick on the screen?
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Darren? All right, go ahead. Whatever. I mean, hey.
I was adding on to what Stu was saying.
Yeah, we
gotcha.
say it to anybody, and we love.
That's okay, but I want to answer it anyways for people that didn't read it.
Yeah. And we love you too, brother. Right. So those who haven't served but have an affinity for helping veterans, or maybe they had a brother or sister or father or a mother that was a service member, when they join our organization, oftentimes they'll sheepishly kick their leg. Oh, I didn't serve, and so on. We ask them to pick your head up and do not call yourself a civilian. Right? You are a true patriot. You are somebody who has an affinity for those who serve. Not everybody gets to serve, right? It's 1%, 2%, however they measure that. But we appreciate anybody who's willing to help us, and we're willing to help anybody. So we have a number of Patriot members in the association.
Love it. Doc?
Yeah, and about 9% of those, that 187,000, according to Ina, who, by the way, was amazing, pulled the data. I mean, that was absolutely cool, Eric, by the way. So thanks for that. But
no, and listen, she does all of our market research. She's amazing. By the way, just so you know, Anna lives in Abu Dhabi. She's flying from Abu Dhabi to Miami for the summit.
Wow.
Nice.
Dude, that's where I was stationed in the Gulf, man.
Okay. All right. There you go.
So, she had the data in like 19 minutes flat. I was like blown away. But so a good portion, 35,000 of those 187 are veteran service disabled, veteran owned businesses. So, I'll be down there with Vets to PM, bringing books to autograph for everybody. And basically chapter 5 in the book is, hey, you want to win more contracts. You want to be more competitive. If you win more contracts, you make more revenue. If you win more contracts and make more revenue, you accrue more past performance. It makes winning future contracts easy. It's math, right? Linear math. A way to do that is certify with a project management credential and or a security credential. Computer information data information assurance is what the government calls it. Can you keep their data secure? So we teach you how to certify. So I've got a staffing company. We help military veterans go into meaningful, lucrative post-service careers and businesses. Some of them go into government contracting, as I was talking about earlier. 11,000 in over 1,000 companies in only 8 years. And the reason that all matters to this audience is, business is based on relationships, and government officials are very, very risk averse people. If they tell their functional managers, if they tell their boss, if they tell their, elected officials or their bureaucratic bosses that, hey, we're going to deliver this contract, they expect that to be done, or that the Fed has a long memory, right, Eric? You fail a contract, brother, you ain't working in this town ever again, man.
Hey, you better go. Yeah.
So when you win a contract, you want to be able to execute on it. And so that's what events like yours are so good at. Is you heard Eric, man, he gave you like 9 examples flat, and that was just off the top of his head on live TV. There's going to be room. You're going to sit at the lunch networking event, and at a table of 15 people, you're probably going to have 8 people that probably have something for you or know somebody that has something for you, statistically speaking, right? So, I mean, what an amazing opportunity. And that's why when Eric said, hey, any veterans that want to come, I immediately went, oh my gosh, me and all my FAVOB buddies. Yeah, let's go. So anyway.
Listen, so I see a couple questions for you, Darren and Stu. It says, will FAVOB be coming to Georgia?
No, I don't know if there's a similar organization that represents the state of Georgia. I know there are a couple groups in the Atlanta area that are veteran business focused, but FAVOB's going to stay in Florida.
What about veteran coming states where veterans, especially military bases, are?
Yeah. So again, a lot of states have a military veteran chamber, so that's what I'd Google for in my state.
Look for something local, but if you happen to be in Florida, you're welcome at any one of our events.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And I'll take this one. Does your business have to be open for at least a year to apply for certifications? So Maria, again, it depends on the type of certification you're talking about, right? So since your name is Maria, I'm assume you're a woman. The women-owned business certification at the federal level, you do not have to be in business for a year. Some of the local certifications do have those type of stipulations requirements. Anything else anybody wants to add to that, Doc? What about PMP, Doc?
No, for PMPs and Sec Plus, you just have to document X amount of experience doing that work. You don't even have to be one necessarily leading and directing the work. You just have to demonstrate experience executing.
All right.
Yeah. And Eric, I want to add one thing too, based on Doc Wright and my experience and going to these conferences. Come prepared, ladies and gentlemen, right? Come prepared. And when I say prepared, I mean this, like know who's going to be there. Look them up on LinkedIn before you get there. Maybe find a connection with them. Know who you want to talk to. You may want to talk to Doc Wright, but you don't want to talk to Stu Smith because Doc Wright's got what you need, right? So be very strategic about the relationships you want to build. Have your capability statement ready if you're in the space and your past performance and those kinds of things. And there's tons of examples of capability statements. But I'll tell you the number one mistake I see all the time when folks get introduced to each other, they're not very good about telling you who they are.
Oh, so my goodness. Go ahead, Stu. Go ahead, Stu.
Buddy, have your elevator speech down pat. Know who you are. Be confident about it, right? And do all the things that we know that you need to do to establish a good relationship with somebody. Read their body language. Ask them more questions than you're giving them information, right? Interact with them in a way that's meaningful. Care about them, right? And get to know them. But you better be able to say who you are, what you do, and what value you bring in about a minute. Because after a minute, you're losing my attention, right? You got to hook me.
And I agree with him. So I just put in there, it looks like it's not showing up. But if you go to, when you register, you'll find out. But on the scheduling app, you can go on there, and that's probably the most up-to-date information here. And so when you go on the scheduling app, you can see some of our speakers, and you can see the schedule of events. So this is probably where the most up-to-date information is that you can find at the particular event. So I would start there. And again, under the scheduling app, you can see Contact Connection Summit, and you'll find our event. So it'll show you about the different workshops we're having, like again, mergers and acquisitions, right? This particular fireside chat, my the guy who I'm interviewing acquired a company for $43 million last year. Kind of might want to hear about that. And he's also a veteran and built his company up, hard work. He's in the cyberspace. He does aerospace and defense, but we're going to talk about that. So again, similar what people are doing with Caesar Nadar, they're messaging him and he's setting up they're pre-setting up meetings for the event before they get there. Right. So that's where I would say for everyone to start and doing that is when you buy the ticket, you'll be on the scheduling app, look at the speakers, and you can already start adding yourself to some of the sessions, but then knowing about who they are, researching them. And to Stu's point, I will never forget Diane Dempsey from BAE Systems. She was on my podcast and she told the best story in the world. And she says, you don't know how many people come to me on a one-on-one session and says, I read about your company, BAE Systems. And so if you don't even know how to pronounce the name of the person's company,
Nice.
That conversation's over, baby.
you're already shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. So do not go to Diane and say BAE Systems.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw your speaker list too, brother. There, I identified at least two. I know Doc Wright and Gene Moran are FAVOB members, and there's a comment in there from Dwight Copeland. And Dwight and I met at NVSBC event in Orlando, right? Him and his lovely bride came up and connected, and that's the kind of thing, like, you remember these people. And guess what Dwight's doing for us now? He's over in the Greater Tampa Bay chapter making programs happen. So now he's a FAVOB member, right? So that's just an example of one person in this thread where we make these connections with folks through the state of Florida. So
there you go. Nice. Doc, I think that's your question.
All right. So PE, great question, my friend. So a vet. Oh, by the way, Eric, for all the vets in the crowd, man, I'm bringing challenge coins too, baby. So we'll have tchotchkes, baby. My business card, I'll find those in the trash. My challenge coins, brother, I've never found one in the trash yet. You know what I'm saying? All right, but so PMP certification, right? So here's the benefit of the PMP certification. I talk about it in chapter 5 of the book, but here's really what it says. Okay, if you have experience leading and directing projects, and basically a project is we need something done, scope, by a certain date, schedule, with a certain limited amount of resources, budget, to these standards and expectations, quality. And we're going to make a bunch of decisions to trade that all off, and I'm going to get the work done through small teams. So unlike a general manager who can yell and scream and fire and hire and like do stuff like pretty conventionally, on a project, I don't have much authority at all, if any. So the only way I can get stuff done is to make the people doing it, because I don't know how to do it. I'm the project manager. I'm just conducting the orchestra. I got to know the difference between a violin and a tuba, but I can't play either one of those things, right? So somebody has to demonstrate that, hey, I have experience getting world-class orchestral musicians to play this amazing piece so everybody in the audience stands up and claps when it's all over, right? I'm going to deliver the thing, but my people are going to do it. That's where a project manager gets really, that's the magic trick, is how do I get a small team of people doing the work that somebody else needs us to do on schedule, on scope, to expectations, within the budget, so that we all look like superstars. And if you're doing it for the government, so that you can establish performance, which then becomes past performance, which helps you win future contracts, and you lather, rinse, and repeat as many times as you want on your way to being a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever you want to be when you grow up, right? So that's what the PMP says. You document your experience, you show it to a third party, the trade organization of project managers. You show it to the Project Management Institute. They look at all of your experience and they say, hey, it sounds like Eric could be a project manager. He sounds like one. Cool. Let's let him take a 4-hour test of 200 questions and see if he remembers how to be one. So then you go take the test and you pin on PMP. And then what that shows the government acquisition team is what it's called in the FAR. So the contracting officer and the contracting officer representative and the functional manager and all the people who work for the gov, they say, oh my God, this person says they're a project manager. They're certified as a project manager, which means if we hire them to deliver us a project, we'll probably get what we expect on time, on scope, to requirements. Okay, cool, let's hire them. That's essentially all the PMP is doing. It's third-party stamp of approval that you are a project manager so that the government knows somebody on that team can deliver this project like we bid or we solicited.
Yeah. And so just want to add to that real quick. I just got my PMP, so super relevant and recent, just a few months ago. I want to help the guy real quick, P.E. Goldsmith. So I'm going to save you a whole lot of time and energy, bud. Get on YouTube and search David McLachlan and watch all his videos. You will pass the test. You'll do just fine. You're studying for the CAPM. That's great. There's nothing wrong with the CAPM. If you can translate your experience to the PMP, I would suggest going that route. In my opinion, because I've taken both tests. In my opinion, the PMP is just a longer version of the CAPM, the current one. It's mostly agile, so look up situational agile questions, and you're going to be fine, dude. So all like Doc said, the PMP that's going to qualify your experience, it's going to validate your knowledge, and it's going to open doors.
Yeah, I know, Eric, you guys are focused on PMP. I'll give some encouragement to folks who are in other disciplines too. The American Society for Quality certifies folks in the quality field, and I'm talking way beyond, Six Sigma and that kind of stuff. So, certified manager of organizational excellence is one of those certifications. So, if you want to work in the quality field, right, and that quality field can be applied to information technology, to manufacturing, to transportation, everywhere. So, if you're on the job seeking side, certifications are key. And sometimes I laugh that there was one time I had more letters behind my name than in my name, but those things helped. So Society for Human Resources, offers a PHR, SPHR. So if you're leaving active duty and you're an HR professional, you need to get to SHRM and get your certification there. If you're a quality practitioner, you need to get to Quality World and get there. ASQ also offers, the belt series all the way up to Six Sigma champions and those kinds of things. So it is important to validate your experience through these certifications.
I love it. It says, what's that guy's name again?
Yeah, Darren, that's for you.
His name is David McLachlan. I'll write it here in the chat. You go, man.
There you go. Good stuff. All right. I just want to share again. I like sharing stuff. I want to share. So this is another one of our speakers, Jonathan Hart, and I'm sharing this because Jonathan just agreed to come on and speak, and it's interesting because again, it's 11 months ago. He won this award, right? And he says, "Thank you to all employees who made this possible and mentored something along the way." But he said, "Look what they wrote right here. Thank you for accepting on my behalf. I'm currently deployed to the Middle East on military deployment." So he's running a company that's winning awards, and he's still being deployed out there. And so I want to look at his pictures. So I say that, but then let's go to the top, Doc, and I want to show you something else. He says, "Hey, I'm speaking at this event. Message me if you will be there, and let's catch up." So this is the kind of stuff that I share with people because all of the people that I bring, they have that kind of personality. They're not saying, "Hey, I'm going to come here. I'm going to speak. I'm going to go hang out the back door. I'm going to go grab a drink. Don't bother me." They're like, "I'm going to be here. If you're going to be there, let's connect." So, I mean, if I was a veteran and I'm like into cybersecurity, I'm like, look, let me talk to this guy. How is this guy running a business and being deployed at the same time, Doc, and winning awards? I want to know what is he doing? So, I mean, that's the kind of, those are the things that I want people to see and to hear and to experience. So I think we're running up on time. Did you guys, Eric would help getting people as a consultant? Yeah.
In my humble experience, okay, so real quick context. So way back in the day, a whole lifetime ago, like late 80s, early 90s ago, right? Like this isn't like style color. This is like legit stuff. Yeah. I was a welder. So, like walk, spin over, drug, knuckles, the whole 9 yards. I was a pipe fitter and I did critical systems, nuclear submarine reactors is what I did. So when I would grow up and I would ultimately learn how to transition, I would talk and I would certify and I would do all the stuff that led me to start a company after teaching at university. I got a terminal degree and I got several certifications. And let me tell you, when you put those on your consulting homepage, when you tell a good story, like Stu said, here's who I am, here's why you want to consult with me, here's your company growth, here's your company, whatever, competitive advantage, whatever you can do for a company, the answer is yes, PMP. The answer is yes, terminal degree. The answer is yes, black belt. Whatever and Stu said it earlier, whatever certifications your customer recognizes, whatever your customer is, identify the NAICS, identify the industry space, identify whatever certifications they recognize, if they see those, it legitimizes your experience because an independent third-party professional trade organization said, yes, Eric is one of those. Yes, Darren is one of those. So in the mind of the person writing the check for your consulting services, you're a lower risk bet. You probably are what you say you are because somebody independent of you both in the transaction said so. So in my experience, as an old blue collar guy that dresses up pretty nice in a suit and goes and sits in boardrooms, yes, it definitely helps. And they don't bat an eye when you bill them 180 instead of 80. Now, I'm not saying fleece them. Be legit, but yeah, it helps. And oh, by the way, Eric, for your audience, if anybody wants any training to help themselves be more competitive when they're doing bids, if you use GCG2023, 10% off any courses. Now, I'm no David McLachlan, but
Hey, and Eric,
his beard is not as epic either. So
yeah, thanks for posting that, Eric, because I couldn't get my LinkedIn profile.
I've got you, brother. I got you.
Yeah, and if I don't see 15 or 20 invitations in my inbox tomorrow morning, I'm going to be.
Hey, man. Listen, I just dropped in there Stu's LinkedIn. I dropped in Doc Wright's LinkedIn. I think, Darren, you put your LinkedIn in there, right, already?
Yeah,
no, you did not? All right, I'll drop it in there for you, brother. I got you. Don't worry. I'm good at that. So, all right, listen. I want you to blow these guys up on LinkedIn. All right. Be their friends, get to know them. Everybody, as you see, we come out here and we connect and we meet. And I like to do this because I like you to meet the real people. And so we're not hiding behind like a social media profile. Like these are real people. You get to shake their hands and talk to them. And if you're in Miami on October the 12th, you'll get a chance to see them. I think Darren won't make it, but Stu will, and Doc, I know Doc Wright will be speaking. So listen, if there's nothing else, I want to thank everybody. Do you guys want to leave some I'll let you guys go around the room and leave some parting words while we close out. And I'm going to just pull up their profiles real quick. That's Darren's profile. Let's see.
All right, I'll just
appreciate it. So, real quick when we meet, Eric and I travel light, so if you meet us and you want to get pretty far into the conversation, a fine bottle of bourbon will get you really far down the path. Eric and I are kind of connoisseurs of the corn liquor. So
there you go.
So, Eric, I just want to say to you and Maria and your son, everybody at GCG, man, you guys are a top-notch outfit. I just appreciate what you do for the community. I appreciate what you've done for me and my company, and you guys are amazing. And I feel like it's one of the most key relationships I have for sure in my sphere of influence. So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
I just want to leave it real quick, adding a little bit more value to the people listening. I know there's a lot of very, very small business owners, such as myself. That should be its own designation in and of itself. But I know that they're listening, and I know that they don't have their own business development, business capture department. They are business development. They are the tax guy. They are the marketer. They are the graphic designer. They are the website guy. They are everything as the business owner. So when they go to these conferences, if they haven't started going to them already and they're working business development, it's a new thing. All you got to do, make a friend. And these people that go to these conferences, like Stu, like Doc, they're going to meet you. They're going to notice that you're a new business owner, and they're going to introduce you to people that you need to talk to. And that's happened to me. That's happened to Doc when I'm with him. That's happened to us all. They love doing business development. They'll help you and they'll get you started, and then you just go with that momentum and roll with it.
Stu?
Yeah,
they always
and
leave
again,
you last, brother. They leave you last.
Yeah, no worries. I do wanna echo what Eric Wright said, and Eric, from me to you, brother. So when Eric Wright comes to me and says somebody's legit, then it's carte blanche, right? It's the gold standard. And he has never disappointed me, and not disappointed me now. So you and Maria and the team there, it's just amazing what you're doing. We're so looking forward to the 11th and 12th, and just appreciate the opportunity for you to give FAVOB a voice so that we can connect with people. And I'm already getting messages there, right? PE sent me a message, and Dwight sent me a connection. So we're already making good things happen for our fellow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Maria said FAVOB is a great way to make friends and network. They're so welcome, regardless if you're served or not. Love going to a conference and become a member the same day.
Beautiful.
All right.
Thanks, Maria.
Good stuff. All right. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate everyone. Make sure I didn't hit the like button because we were just so deep in the conversation. So if you didn't hit the like button, please hit the like button and share it with your friends, family, because again, that does help, right? Since these things helps the algorithms to push it in the comment. If you do have questions, drop it in here, because before this call jumped on, Doc says he goes on and checks all his questions and answers them. I tried doing that. I have too many people now that I can. It has become. I don't know if I can. I'd have to hire 2 full-time people to answer all these questions now. But smash the like button. Thank all these guys. Go follow them on all their socials. And again, like I said, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Stu, Darren, and Doc Wright for
Thanks,
all
Eric.
you do. And look forward to seeing you guys on the 11th and 12th. All right.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
All right. We'll connect before that.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.